Do you love sport and you know the positive impact it can have for you? But sometimes maybe there are side effects from that. Maybe you're investing too much time and energy into areas that you shouldn't. Today, I'm going to talk about the side effects of the endless year of sport, the sports cycle that just seems to continue, and what you can do to start making the changes to make sure you're still getting the most out of your sport and every area of your life. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport, as I see it, is to see your vision become a reality, find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. So this week in sport, one of the conversations I noticed was how the lines between that definitive end of one season and the start of the next is getting more and more blurred. The news cycle that we have now means that for people's chosen sport, there's more of a hunger. I'm still listening to rugby league podcasts, and it's December, and I'm loving it. The cricket season is sort of struggling to get going. They actually were talking about on this particular platform, they were talking about it's a real challenge for cricket, is that people are being drawn to other sports because the AFL draft's on, there's other things going on in all of these different sports, and cricket hasn't really got started. Usually by now we're well into cricket, but it's been pushed to the back pages because there's so many stories from the winter codes that are still going on. So it's just relentless. And for someone who used to work at Fox Sports and absorb as much sport as possible, to then getting a bit burnt out by that and actually falling out of love with a lot of sport because I was getting too much of it, and has now rekindled that love and getting the balance so much more at a place that it should be. I'm loving the fact that I can still engage in my favourite sports. So I'm looking forward to cricket getting back into it, but I'm really loving the fact that I can still engage in my favourite sport to support, and that's rugby league. But what are the side effects of that? What is the impact that's going to have? Now, that for you might not be supporting. It could be playing. It could be coaching. You might like the analytics. You might be like someone who likes to do a bit of gambling on it. All of those different elements of sport, they're all fantastic. They're great ways to switch off. They're great way to connect with mates. But what can happen is that you use them to avoid what you really need to address, the areas that need your attention, your own health, your relationships, finding more fulfillment in your career and your life. So it's making sure you're getting that balance right. Because if you're constantly consuming as much of that as possible, well, then it comes at a cost, like over-consuming in any area. You get stuck scrolling endlessly. You get obsessive about different things, and you're just trying to consume, watch as much as possible. Something's got to give. So it's really important that when you have those moments, when you're on your own, when things are quiet, that you acknowledge that there are certain things in the other areas of your life that need attention. Now, you would have seen in my episode a few weeks back, might even be a month now, when I talked about the positive aspects of watching sport. And they're amazing. And I'm going to go into more detail of each of those different points that I raised in that episode. But like anything, if you overindulge, it comes at a cost. So honest self-reflection. Have you got the balance right? Is an element of sport having an impact on your health, your relationships, your work, fulfillment, sense of purpose, all of those different things? Now, of course, sport's going to contribute to that. Absolutely. One of my good mates, he stepped away from Fox Sports to become a professional gambler because he has this incredible, intuitive and ability to process data at a level that I've never seen before. And he's beating them at their own game. Now, he's also really passionate about how unethical the gambling industry is and how they take advantage of people. And you might have experienced that yourself. I know I have, like, gambled away so much money, just caught chasing that rush, chasing that excitement that sport gives, but sometimes disappears for different reasons. Like if you're playing less sport, you feel less involved, or you're missing that sense of purpose and fulfillment. Now, for him, he gets the fulfillment out of being able to use his natural zone of genius to create success, to be able to give back to his mates, to buy his parents a house. Like, how good's that? So, like with anything, I'm now not a fan of gambling, but I also understand it's something that people do. Again, as long as you're not overindulging, it's not getting to a point where it's impacting your health. And if you are spending beyond your means, well, that's going to impact your health and it's going to impact your relationships. So getting the balance right with all of these different things. Now, what I love, if I go back to my mate there, he's passionate about standing up for what's right and what's wrong, to the point where now he's opening his own sports betting agency, where he's going to make sure they've got everything done completely ethically. They'll be cross-checking people. If they hit their limits that they've set for themselves, they'll be cutting them off. You won't see the stories like you might have seen by some of those bigger bookmakers who have allowed people, even though they were on warning lists, to not continue to let them bet. That it was in the news recently. This guy got himself into so much debt, ruined his marriage, ruined his job, because he was actually funneling money from the business to support this gambling habit. You would see how much they bombard the sport with betting apps, free bets. Again, another big thing he hates is those bonus bets and all those things that encourage people to be stuck in that cycle instead of getting the balance right. Now, whether you like it or not, sports gambling is, from the days of 2Up, the Anzacs, going back 100 years, it is a way of life. It's a cultural aspect of Australia. And the fact that he's doing that now in an ethical way and teaching people how to have the right morals around these things. Now, you might think gambling's immoral, and that's fine, but I don't think we're going to remove it. So how can we actually put things in place? So again, if you bring it back to you and the side effects for you, where are you overindulging? Maybe it's gambling. Maybe you're the sort of person that physically pushes yourself to the limit so that you avoid it. I don't know if you listened to the episode with Colin Durrant when he talked about how he was cycling so much and pushing his body to the limit so he could avoid facing that voice that was going on in his head, which he needed to address. I know other people that, they constantly seem to be watching sport. And I'm thinking, how do you find time for that when you have a family and you have kids and you have work and all those different things? So, like I say, with everything, getting clear on what is most important and getting that balance right. And one of the tools that I have to help with that is a life priority list, which I've mentioned before, but also then going and looking at a typical week. Where are you investing time on a regular basis? If you look at where your body's out of balance or your life's out of balance, where you're overindulging, some of those side effects of too much sport, for example, what needs to change? If that's where your time is going now, and this is how things are in your life, and you want those to improve, well, then how do you need to readjust the clock each week? And if you want the structure for that, let me know, because I have that in a single training, which I can give to you, which is, here's how you map it out. Just put in your details and you'll quickly see by writing it down what you need to change to get that balance right. So this is not about saying take that enjoyment out of your life. It's making sure you're doing it in a way that's going to be work best for you and for the most important people in your life. Because I know sport can change the world in such a positive way. We need to continue to make sure that we find ways to do that in the best possible way, in the most positive way, so it can continue to do that. And I'm a firm believer that it is the one vehicle that can create the biggest positive impact in the world in the fastest possible time. It can actually create a exponential increase in connection, in positivity, in behavior change if we get this right. And it starts with you, like with everything else. You can look out there and look at all the problems in the world, where you can come back to you. And generally, I think it was, what's his name? Jordan Peterson was talking. People were saying, "Oh, why wouldn't you believe in all these different causes?" And he said, "I don't have a problem with any of those causes, but generally, the people who are speaking loud about these world causes are ones that haven't got their own backyard in order. So get your own backyard in order, and then find purpose in being able to pass on to other people what you've learned by continuing to improve yourself. That's where you find purpose. That's where you're going to get even more out of your sport and out of your life. And that's how together we're going to change the world. Speak to you soon." You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.